Uttamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayo Dhiryat Nashta Prayasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavati Uttamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kapaturagaritam Param Shukamukaramita Dravisamitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Mariam Mahoro Rashika Bhubi Babakaham Krishna Swadamapagate Dhammagini Karonashtad Vishamasho Paranako Dunodham Kamapia Damashuta Vishutam Vibhusamapia Nibarambariksaram Paragahidaho Maradam Sanklation Abadamasandi Nanyataham Om Ganati Madanda Shaganagana Salagaya Chaksurun Militam Yanatashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sta Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Satevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridina Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Larita Shivishakan Vitam Sta Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamana Miste Saraswati Dev Gurumari Pacharya Near Vishez Sanyvari Praskata Desarani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Ballaba Chandra. As you can see, we solved our screen problems. No more blurriness. I had thought it was because I'd cleaned the screen with some lens cleanser, glasses, reading glasses cleanser, which it recommends not doing because it takes the anti-glare off the screen. I thought that I'd permanently damaged the screen. But then it occurred to me that when I open other programs or just go on the desktop, there wasn't any of that blurriness. So by the process of nati, eliminating other possibilities, it finally dawned on me, pun, considering the background here, that it was just the camera. It was just the camera. Otherwise, everything was functioning normally. So I looked closely at this little light here, and sure enough, there was a smear across the camera. So all it took was just a few good wipes with some elbow grease, and we solved the blurriness problem. Now, Lilavati, bless her heart, she's the personification of sweetness and kindness. She was listening to this podcast, not seeing it, listening to it, because seeing wasn't an option yesterday. So she got a webcam, jumped in her car in Salt Lake City, and she was already on her way down here. She'd already texted me. She's on her way with a webcam. So I didn't have the heart to tell her to turn around and go back. She arrived and went upstairs, got some darshan. She caught the end of class that Agni Dev was giving in Krishna Vasaya. So that was good. And then I'm trying to think, how I could have made, produce some result from her having come all the way down here. And I have some posters. It's a little premature. The event's not for another 3.5 months, but whenever I go here and there, I have posters for the Festival of Colors, which is March 29, 30. I have posters on my car. So I put them up mainly at Beans and Brews and Starbucks. So I thought, well, why don't I give Lilavati? She's a Uber driver. She goes around here and there. So I gave her 25 posters. I told her, whenever you pass a Beans and Brew or Starbucks, go ahead and put them up. I wish Lilavati was here today. I wish she was here so she could hear this. So anyway, make a long story short. And I told her just go do Beans and Brews and Starbucks, neither one of which you have to ask permission, just kind of breeze in like you own the place, put up the poster. So later on in the day, she texts me. She did one grammar school. She put it up in the hallway of a grammar school. She did a recovery, an addiction recovery place for veterans. She did Office Max, the exit door to Office Max. She put it in the break room of Best Buy, which probably has 100 employees. This, what is it called? Stone. It gives massages and facials. It's a chain all over. She put it in the entrance to that. Oh my God, I couldn't believe how she'd gone beyond the furthest stretches of my imagination. This is going to be epic. This is going to be epic. In terms of getting the word out, we have a nuclear weapon here in term from Lilavati. This is her unique gift in town. I'm a little shy, so I don't really resonate going in, talking, asking permission, and yada yada yada. I just like to go to places where there are already posters, where they already have a precedent for setting posters. Just go in, try not to make eye contact with the employees. Just go in, look for the board. As soon as I get in the door, I look for the board. I go right there. I put up the poster. I put up another little 3x8 flyer that has the times and dates and details of our Saturday feast in Salt Lake City and Sunday feast in Spanish Fork. And I leave. If they don't like it, they can take it down themselves. But Leelavati is a whole different level. This is going, I am so excited about the exposure we're going to get. And many people don't do posters anymore. They just rely on social media and Facebook and Instagram. We do our Facebook and Instagram campaigns just like everybody else, but we haven't abandoned the old way, going around place to place, getting in and out of your car, putting up posters. Even though the coffee shops are the best place to put up posters, still we all know that most people don't even go inside anymore. They just go up to the drive-out window. But nevertheless, it only takes one person to then tell their friends and post it and share it on Instagram. So everything works. Don't underestimate the old ways postering. And I'm so stoked now to have Leelavati on board. I think for the next 3.5 months she's found her niche. As she goes here and there, we're going to see. I'm going to have to get extra posters printed up. Okay, another thing I wanted to mention before we dive into our subject matter is, Kelly, without specifics, because I don't want to intentionally turn aside potential listeners, but I liked your post of H.L. Mencken yesterday. You'll see that I clicked the like button. There are two quotes that I ran across many years ago, probably 40 years ago, from H.L. Mencken. And he's the worst cynic. He's the worst cynic. But you have to admit that his utterances were prophetic. Um, he said he said the world would not be the loser if you held America underwater for 10 minutes. That was one thing he said, and I remember. And another thing he said is that no one will ever go broke underestimating the taste of the American public. Uh, how prophetic is that? Um, and Prabhupada also said, again, with scriptural support, that the trend of the age in which we're living is a downward trend. It becomes more and more degraded. The politicians who get elected by the people are like big animals who are elected by smaller animals. Um, he said that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's predicted that in this age, if someone lies, people will elect him the president. If someone tells the truth, people will come with sticks and beat him. So if anybody has any illusions about the material world, if anybody tends to think, well, it's not so bad after all, or scripture exaggerates, or Srila Prabhupada quoting scripture exaggerates, uh, I think we're seeing that there's no exaggeration there. There's no exaggeration. If anything, there's underemphasis. If anything, it's understated. So in any case, Doesn't matter what the general state of the populace is. Krishna consciousness is probably not going to be practiced across the boards in a collective mass sense anyway. I don't think any of us ever expected that. But we're grateful for our International Society of Krishna Consciousness with 800 communities all over the world, places where people can physically come as many times a week as they like, hear the philosophy, chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, and depending on the particular facility, accept some volunteer work in the gardens or in the kitchen or cleaning or guest reception. And then others who are not within physical distance of the temples, they can jump online on Zoom and Facebook, and they can, like Kelly, for instance, Britta, who's up there in Ogden, Ram Kishore is in Minnesota. So we have to be very grateful that even though we're 1/10,000th of 1/10 of 1% of the population, to each other, we're everything. We may not be much percentage-wise. We may not wield much political or even theological power, but to each and every one of us, we are everything. We need each other. We need to stay together because together we'll go back home, back to Godhead. This was the statement of Prahlad Maharaj. He said, I don't want, when the Shringa asked him for a blessing, he said, I don't want to go back home, back to Godhead. He said, I won't seek my liberation alone. I'll lead them back. I'll lead the fools and rascals back to your lotus throne, because without their shelter, their hearts are cold. True happiness they won't behold. So we need each other. We celebrate each other. We stick together. We're not perfect, but we're moving forward and we're on the path. So we're fellow travelers, not on the downward path, but on the upward path. That brings us to, yes, we need to stay together. Thank you, Britta. Thank you, Britta. we're discussing the second verse of the 11th chapter, 11th verse, 3rd chapter, 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. These are the prayers of Gajendra. Gajendra, elephant king in dangerous grip, his mind stripped of arrogance, his history unzipped, recalled mantras from a previous life, cut away his attachment like a knife. Formerly King Indradumna, now in elephant form, and yet the prayers echoed, weathering the storm. Mantras resurfacing from the past, transcendental sound. Awakening memories profound. Even a devotee falls in the path, Krishna heart keeps track. At the right time will take up a slack, will carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. Krishna is the original, the cause, the result, the witness supreme, transcendental to this dream, unseen behind the screen. The life in the machine, Lord of might, give me protection, guide me through the darkness up to the eternal light. Lord, you're the preserver, the transcendental observer above this creation, aloof like the sun. Yet with your energies, you bless everyone, simultaneously apart from this world in one. Through multipotency, you manifest your will, this universe, creating this universe, your purpose to fulfill. And when it's time to end, you absorb it back like a spider retracts its web into its sack. Even if a devotee falls in the path, Krishna heart keeps track. At the right time will take up the slack of carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. So chant Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra's call. In this life or the next, it will never fail. Once it's sown, the Bhakti Kripa will grow. Sooner or later, you will go back home, back to Godhead. Even if a devotee falls in the path, Krishna heart keeps track. At the right time will take up the slack of carry what you lack. He will get you back home, back to Godhead. So we're seeing that play itself out in the life of Gajendra. He was cursed unfairly in his past life. He lived for 1,000 years as an elephant. He had been totally forgetful of Krishna, but now, due to Krishna's mercy, Krishna heart takes up the slack. He carries what you lack. Now Krishna is gathering him back home, back to Godhead, back to Krishna's sheltering breast. And in the course of remembering his prayers from a previous life, we have these two words in the second line of the 11th verse. Naiskarmya Vipascitah. We spent 4 or 5 sessions discussing the verse, the word Naiskarmya, which means basically bhakti buffers you from making poor decisions and creating negative reactions for you. And it also removes the desire from the heart to make bad decisions. It gives you wisdom, it gives you peace, it gives you direction so that you no longer sow those bad seeds in the future. Those are the two benefits of bhakti. Naiskarmya. It negates, it minimizes your past karma, and it also gives you a higher taste so that you don't make yourself vulnerable to future negative reactions. The second word in the second line of the 11th verse is Vipascitah. What is Vipascitah? Vipascitah means, it refers to, on one hand, the power of devotional service. Imagine a in Pennsylvania, when we used to go hiking as kids, there were these abandoned pioneer cabins. You'd just come across them in a little clearing in the woods. And some pioneers would have lived there maybe 50 or 100 years ago. And if you go inside, it's mostly dark. There's no, of course, fixtures. There's no wiring. There are no outlets or no bulbs. They didn't have any of that in those days. But if there are cracks over the course of time, the wood warps and contracts, and so the grouting of there's chinks now. There's chinks, and through those chinks into the darkness come very powerful rays of sun. So even though there's no electric lighting, still you can find your way pretty well around on the interior of these small cabins because of the very, very powerful rays of light that come through the chinks. Bhakti is like that. It's powerful like a sunbeam. Tivrena bhaktinam yajitam purusham pashu. In this dark world, there's a chink. Kritya deyato vishnu tretya jana dorparipara karotad hari kirtana. In this dark world, and in this dark age, in this dark world, not only is the space dark, but the time is a particularly dark time, as we just said. It's the age of Kali. Liars are elected to the highest executive position, and truth sellers are beaten. So not only is it a dark physically, but also the times are dark. It's the winter season of the cosmos. And yet, in penetrating this dark time and this dark space is the holy name of the Lord. Krishna Varnam Titsa Krishnam Sangopana Yaga Sankara Yajanti Pisha. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was predicted. It said that in the dark age and in the dark times, the Kali Yuga, the golden avatar, like a sun in and of himself, a sun unto himself, the sun, Lord Chaitanya, and the moon, Nityananda, rise simultaneously on the horizon of Bengal to dissipate the darkness of this material world. What's that verse? Can't think of it right now, but the question is asked when Krishna goes back to his abode, accompanied Dharma Gyana Bihisaha, Kado Nestambisha, Parano Kodunotitaha. When the Lord quits his pastimes at the end of the previous age, the Dwarka Yuga, and goes back to his abode, he takes knowledge and he takes renunciation with him. So how will people get light in this current dark age and in this current dark time? The answer is they'll get light from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This Parada will shed light. And in partnership with the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and he gave us the holy names of the Lord. So as we just mentioned, as in our preface to today's discussion, if we chant the holy names of the Lord, it doesn't matter how widespread the darkness is, how impenetrable the darkness is, or how dark the place is, we can get immunity. We can get individually, and as devotees, as God brothers, as Prabhus, we can get some relief from the Kali Yuga age, just as from the impenetrable darkness you get relief from a powerful beam of sunlight that comes through the chinks. However, we shouldn't take this blessing coming from the spiritual world, offering us hope and light and vision and creativity in this otherwise desert-like landscape. We shouldn't take this casually. We shouldn't take it for granted. We shouldn't take it cavalierly. That's what the meaning of Vipascitah In every circumstance, as much as God does for us, he'll draw the line at this point. He won't do for you what you can do for yourself. So in order to make ourselves eligible on an ongoing basis with the light, the bliss, the joy, the creativity, the peace of Krishna consciousness, we have to appreciate it. It begins with appreciation, begins with cherishing it, it begins with valuing it. We have to take the holy name to heart and not perform our rounds because it's an obligation or it's a duty or because we've made a promise and I can't do the things I want to do until I finish my rounds. Nor should we chant our rounds knowing that Krishna is the source of all wealth and fame and beauty. And so we go to Krishna to ask him for material possessions and material gains, attaining which we then grow cold and we move away from Krishna. Those are not the attitudes that are going to get us the desired success in devotional service. Devotional service, chanting of Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, should be done Vipascitah, with full enthusiasm, with a lot of faith, a lot of hope, a lot of joy. This may not be the best example, but I learned a lesson when I was in boarding school in New Jersey. I was in a house. They were called the lower houses for the freshmen. There were four lower houses, and what they were really was four wings of a big, huge, long building. The second story on the left-hand side was known by one. The second story on the top was known. And I was in the Thomas house, I think, and I think Mr. Devlin had an apartment at the end of the hall. He was our housemaster. So each house had a football team. There were four intramural football teams, and we competed against each other. And during practice one time, we were doing drills. So a ball carrier would run at you. He'd run straight at you, and then you would have to tackle him. And so naturally, I mean, it's a natural instinct to avoid a direct collision. And so I would try to kind of go at an angle and bring the person down by with my right arm or left. I try to hook my arm or try to go down at his ankles, and it wasn't working so well. Most of the ball carriers were getting past me. And coach said, "Look, Caru, you're trying to avoid getting hurt, but the best way I've found is to just throw yourself into it. Don't have any reservations. Don't overthink it." And he said, "Lead with your head. Lead with your head. Instead of trying to avoid a collision, aim your head like a missile right at his midsection. Aim your head like a missile at his midsection. That way, if he jukes to one side or another, you're so centered on him that you can hardly miss him. But when you try to go to the left, then he goes to the right, and when you try to go to the right, he goes to the left. So you're missing all your tackles. But just lower your head and aim and go as fast and as forcefully. And another thing he said, the one that's going to get hurt is the one who's going slower. In a head-on collision, if one car is going 60 and the other is going 40, it's the one who's going 40 miles an hour that's going to be more thoroughly annihilated. And if anyone's going to survive, it's going to be the one in the car that's going faster. So he said, make sure you're going faster and harder and directly at your opponent. And so I started doing that. I started leading with my head, and I became a terror. They didn't want to carry the ball against me. I laid guys out, and some of them didn't get up. Um, it wasn't very good advice anatomically. If you want to live a long life and not get early onset Parkinson's or dementia, I would recommend avoiding the sport of football altogether because there is only one way to play football, and that's with your head. You have to use your head as a weapon, and the head was not, God didn't give you your head to drive it into other people's bodies, especially not when they're coming towards you at 15 miles an hour. But that is the way to play football, and it is ironically the way to avoid injury, at least short-term injury. Of course, long-term science tells us that this is the head is your command center. If your head is messed up, then everything else is going to be messed up, and that's why the best football players, basically after 40, they start to lose it mentally, maybe even before that, but the symptoms come up 40. Just as an example, not to get too far afield, we went down to Oceanside a number of years and put on a festival of colors in a pier in a beautiful stadium right on the beach there, right on the Pacific Ocean, downtown Oceanside, which is a very, very beautiful city. It was a trip. It was really, I I remember standing up on the road level and taking pictures and videos of the grandstands and the entertainment, and then the boardwalk with people bicycling, rollerblading by, and the concessions, and then the ocean back there, and the beach and the ocean. Just idyllic, picture perfect. That auditorium was named after Junior Seau, who was a middle linebacker for some football team, and he happened to live just a couple blocks away. So it was named in his name. Well, he committed suicide when he was 38 years old because he found he couldn't remember his wife's name and he couldn't remember his children's name. And so he concluded that life wasn't worth living. So however much he got paid, however much fame, however many stadiums were named in his honor, I think his final decision was it wasn't worth it, and he killed himself because of it. Anyway, that's not germane to the point I'm making. But what I learned was that if you're going to do something, do it wholeheartedly. Don't do it half-heartedly. Throw yourself into it. That's the secret of success. When Bob and I came to Utah, we didn't do it half-heartedly. We uprooted ourselves from LA and we threw ourselves on the mercy of the Lord, knowing that you never make a sacrifice for the Lord, but that He doesn't reciprocate. We'd heard that theoretically, but theory is one thing. If you want to realize it, if you want that truth to manifest it in your life, you have to put it to the test. So that's what we did. And that's what Vipascitah means. To be absolutely convinced that bhakti is the best thing that has happened in my life. Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktira chi haitiki bhaktira yedma. Sukadeva Goswami tells Maharaj Pariksit, the highest occupational duty of the human being is that which culminates in devotional service to the Lord. And that devotional service should be done wholeheartedly. How do we know it's wholeheartedly? It's done ahaitukiya pratihata. It's done without motives. I'm not worshiping the Lord in order to pursue my own personal agenda. And it's also done uninterruptedly. Uninterruptedly. As Queen Kunti prays, Kunti's prayer, a farewell plea. Through trials and tribulations, your grace we see. In devotion's path, you set us free. As the Ganges rushes from the high Himalayas to the sea, let our love flow eternally, Lord, at your lotus feet. Let trials repeat if it means seeing your face, no more birth, no more death in this endless race, your presence, our liberation, every place. Kunti's heart sings, your glories we embrace. Just as the Ganges flows, and you can imagine how forcefully, from the heights of the Himalayan glaciers all the way down to sea level, the Bay of Bengal, over a course of 1,500 miles. You can imagine the force of the water. I know a couple of times I went to Rishikesh, which is at the foothills of the Himalayas. Ganges exits the Himalayas at Rishikesh and Hardwar and then comes out onto the flat plains of India for its long run to the Bay of Bengal. Well, many people go to Hardwar and Rishikesh, and it's always been considered purifying to take bath in the Ganges. Washes away your sins. Not so much the water, but the fact that there are saints and sages who take bath in the Ganges and they purify the atmosphere. And so by their presence, Bhavad-vita Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta. Tirthas are tirthas because of the saints and sages, not because of the landscape. So everybody coming to the Ganges wants to take bath, but it's very fast moving at that point, having just come from the heights now to the sea level. So what they do is there's steps, first of all. There's concrete steps built down so you can lower yourself waist. But you'd be swept away in a moment. So what they've done is they've put these iron bars every 6 feet, upright iron bars set in the concrete. So you have to hold on to those iron bars against the current. Otherwise, you'll be swept away. Just further upstream, there's a place called Lakshman Jula. It's said to be a place where Lakshman crossed the river during the Ramayana. So I remember in Australia, at one point we had this very special boy. From high school, he started visiting the temple. His name was Bhakti Robert. Very good looking, very intelligent, took to Krishna consciousness immediately. And it wasn't long before he went to join Guru Kripa's party. They were collecting funds in Japan to pay for the Vrindavan temple. And they worked very hard. They worked 10, 12 hours a day and collected, like a lot of money for building the Vrindavan temple. So they would take breaks every so often. They would go to India, take breaks. And so on one occasion, the whole crew of them were at Lakshman Jewel, and they went into the Ganges, and most of them were big, strong, young people. And they were sporting, playing water sports there. And someone said, where's Bhakti Robert? He was initiated by them, but I don't remember his initiation. Where's Bhakti Robert? They looked around and he was nowhere to be seen. A few days later, his body washed up like 10 miles downshore. So that was sad in a sense, but then again, if you're going to go, you might as well go by drowning in the sacred river Ganges, which has been purified by the lotus feet of the Lord and by saints and sages. But this is an example to show how there shouldn't be any obstructions, there shouldn't be any reservations, no scruples, no hesitations. Just just like in any endeavor, if you want success, you have to throw yourself into it. You have to go all in. Um, so that Ganges River is all in. It's all in. It flows from up to up to 5 miles high. It comes from snow that's as much as 5 miles above sea level. That snow melts and it descends. It has all the force of gravity and the extra force of its own weight and mass. And it travels down 5 miles in descent. Then it travels 1,000 miles over flat plains of India. And then it rushes into the Bay of Bengal. So if one is to do devotional service with absorption, as it should be done, in the way that you have to do in order to get a success, it should be uninterrupted. It should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. It should be absolutely convinced that this is the best thing that's happened in my life. I gave six classes at Springville Junior High School on Monday. And the kids want to know, what do you think of Jesus Christ? What do you think of Lord Jesus Christ? I said, well, whatever he said is true. He's Son of God. Of course, we're all sons of God. The difference between him and us is not that he's a son of God and we're not a son of God. The difference is that he's a good son of God and we're not so good. He's the only one in that time and place and circumstances 2,000 years ago that acted like the Son of God. The rest were not acting properly. So I tell people that Jesus Christ was a bhakti yogi, practiced the same path of devotion that we follow. And they say, well, how do you know? And I say his number one injunction, his number one exhortation was, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. That's Vipascitah. He didn't say, love God along with your car, along with your truck, along with your gun collection, along with your country. Those are not to be necessarily neglected. We're not saying those things are unimportant, but the main occupational duty, the main purpose of our life is to love God, and we should do that wholeheartedly. Nothing else should compete with love of God. When we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, or any bona fide name of God, that's what should get our heart racing. That's what should get our blood flowing. The chanting, you chant, you're falling half asleep, or you're chanting as a chore, it's a burden, or you're chanting you're doing the chanting as a means to get something else, you're missing it. You're missing the real benefit of chanting. You have to do it unreservedly. You have to do it wholeheartedly. And you have to organize your mind in such a way that you look forward to chanting and that you chant enthusiastically and unreservedly with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. This is the same in Christianity, in Sikhism, in Sufism, in Judaism as it is in bhakti. If you're going to be successful in anything in life, what to speak in pursuing love of God, you have to do it wholeheartedly. You have to be convinced. This is the best thing that's happened in my life. And um, and and I was born to do this. I was created, I was fashioned in the beginning of time by the hand of the Creator to do this. And everything, every choice that I make, what food I eat, uh, what my schedule is for today, what books I read, what movies I watch, what who I associate with, is it going to facilitate my devotion to Surya? Is it going to bring me to the point where my devotion is less and less personally motivated and moving towards a point where it is uninterrupted 24 hours a day? This is why I'm living devotion to Sri Hari. This is why I'm walking. The reason that God let me see the light of the sun on this glorious morning is so that I can use the minutes, hours, and moments of this day to worship the Lord with intensity, with strong inclination, with hard work, avoiding the don'ts and embracing the do's. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a devotee, a devotee who's been coming for many years, doing wonderful service, but for whom maybe the process of devotional service has become a little mechanical. I can't get inside someone else's head, but from what he said, which I'm going to share with you, I sort of thought that, for him, it's become a little stale. I was talking about, I forget what it was, doing a festival of colors in Sacramento or Santa Cruz or some outrageous plan of mine. I'm always full of plans for expansion. And he looked at me, he started looking at me kind of funny and shaking his head like I was a freak, like I was an exhibit in the zoo or something. And he said in a critical tone, "True, you don't have an off switch." And that was meant as a reprimand, like, I should take some time off and, go to the movies or something like that. You know, I don't know what was said. But the thing is, enthusiasm means that you want to avoid those things that are unfavorable and you want to embrace those things which are favorable. If you embrace the things which are unfavorable and you even intermittently avoid the things that are favorable, what happens is your ardor cools. You lose that enthusiasm. You lose your gusto. You come to the temple robotically out of habit because why do you go to the temple? You're not looking forward to associate with devotees. You're not looking forward to chant. It's just what you've been doing. You do it mechanically, robotically out of habit. And when you're at the temple on a Sunday afternoon, you notice someone who's coming for the first time or the second time, chanting and dancing enthusiastically with a big smile, asking questions eagerly, volunteering for service. And if this thought comes into your head, however briefly, if you think, what are they so excited about? Then can I tell you, you're in trouble. Your own devotional service is in trouble. You may still be coming to the temple. You may have a record of having come to the temple for 10, 20, 30 years. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden you disappeared. from the temple. After so many years, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see your face again. And I want to see your face. There's nothing I'd like better than to see your face, and there's nothing I'd hate more than to not see your face again. But I tell you one thing, when someone has been so long without the juice, the bliss of devotional service, I'm not sure I could get you back. I'm not sure once you stop coming, there's anything I can say to get you back, because I'm not supposed to flatter you. You're supposed to be astute enough and enthusiastic enough and to have kept your fires burning on your own, to learn how to enthuse yourself in such a way that you support this great missionary movement. We can't take time out to go back and try to pick up those that have fallen on the way. Of course, we're concerned about them. We would like them because they have more experience to get to rejoin us, to get back into the ranks and all. But it's also a fact that once you get jaded, once you lose that original enthusiasm, once you've allowed these anarthas to come in and other motivations and interruptions and intermittencies, and you no longer have that fire, it's actually, I know what you're going to say when I approach you. I know what you're going to say when I say, why don't you come to the feast and why don't you join us again? In one version or another, you're going to say, I've done it all. I've seen it all. It's the same old, same old, same old, same old. So I don't know, honestly, how to rekindle your enthusiasm, because bottom line is we provide prasadam, we provide the association, we provide the inspiring words, we provide the kirtan. We are geared up here for spreading the mission. But everybody else on their own, when they're not at the temple, they have to learn how to enthuse themselves. They have to learn how to embrace the process of devotional service, not half-heartedly, but wholeheartedly. I'll give you an example. If you want to heat up some food, the microwave is there. We don't recommend using the microwave, but this is just an example. You'll need to microwave that food for 2 minutes continuously. But if you think, I'll do it for 10 seconds, take it out for 10 seconds, I'll put it in for 10 seconds, I'll take it out for 10 seconds, and this way I will microwave the food for 2 minutes. But the problem is, if you take it in and out and in and out, even though you have microwaved the food for a total of 10 minutes, because it's also been out for 10 minutes, it's still cold. It's still just as cold as it was originally. It's experienced spasms, spurts of heat, but then during the 10 seconds you take it out, it relapses. And you can only do that so many more times before you just give up. You just say, well, I can never heat this food. It's impossible to do it. But you have to do it continuously. You have to put it in and close it and set it for 2 minutes and just don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Let it do what it's supposed to do. So if you want the full benefits, the full enthusiasm, the full insights, the full creativity, the full bliss and joy, you can't be off again, on again. You can't do devotional service for a while and then have your off switch. You have to have your on switch, not just on Sundays, but when you're at home as well, when you're at office, when you're at the gym, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. Same thing in the gym. If you go do a bench press, you do a set of bench presses, and then you go around and talk to people and go in the sun, and you come back after half an hour to do another bench press, it's not going to do you that much good. You have to do the bench press. You do a set, and then just wait a few minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes, then do another set, and wait to do another set and do another set. And what that does is it challenges your muscles consistently over a short period of time. You actually, if you want the best results, the best gains, you do as many sets as you can in as short intervals until you reach fatigue. You do sets until you're so weak you can't lift that again. Then what happens is the muscles will repair themselves and you become much stronger. We have to avoid at all costs being lukewarm. Someone told me that in the Bible, Lord Jesus Christ says, I will accept you if you're hot, and I'll even accept you if you're cold. But if you're lukewarm, it means if you think you know it all and you don't want to hear it, I spit you out. I spit you out. I remember when I was president in Berkeley in 1975, we used to have a couple hundred people at the Sunday feast. But the problem was they'd all been devotees at some point in time. So I'd be all fired up to preach, and everybody be sitting in rows with their prasadam before them. And I'd go and sit across from somebody, and I start to tell them Krishna consciousness. And then just like uh, cold water is a mild way of putting it. A more accurate way of might saying acid. I don't want to hear it. I've heard it before. Get away from me. They're still coming to the Sunday feast. They're still taking prasadam, but they don't want to hear it anymore. The essence, the foundation of Krishna consciousness is repeat. It's repeat, repeat. But we don't want to hear that repetition if we've allowed ourselves to cool, to get lukewarm. A moist log, you throw a moist log, even if you throw it right in the fire, it's not going to ignite. So even if you come to the temple, if you've been coming to the temple, taking prasadam, participating in the kirtans, if you haven't done it with commitment and with joy and with wholeheartedness, even you're in the temple, you're in this environment which should kindle your flames because you yourself are moist, you're not going to ignite. And what happens is worldly desires keep the wood moist. If you keep the wood in the fire long enough continuously, the moistness will evaporate and eventually the fire will keep. But if you keep taking the log out of the wood, putting it in water, then putting it back in the fire for a while, then taking it out, putting it in water, putting it back in the fire. So similarly, you go to the temple on Sunday to get spiritually surcharged, but then Monday you're watching football games, or you're listening to certain station on the radio, or you're scrolling through your phone looking at pornography or all kinds of sporting events, or then you'll never dry out, so to speak, enough in order to make progress in devotional service. So tomorrow we'll talk more about this subject matter, how we can keep ourselves in the fire, engage ourselves in such a way in this short life that we get the ultimate benefit of going back to home, back to Godhead upon leaving this body. Thanks very much. Let me see if Lilavati's joined us. Oh, she might be so tired from all the posters she did. Oh, here you are, Lilavati. You just joined. I was telling you at the beginning how you, out of the kindness of your huge heart, you came down with a webcam to solve our blurriness problem. And when you were here, I thought about how we might be able to, uh, you know, give another purpose for your having come. And I gave you 25 posters, and I just thought, just go to Starbucks and beans and brews. And then I got a message from you later. You did an elementary school, you did Office Max, you did the break room in Stone Massage, you did the break room in Best Buy. You did a recovery, a veterans recovery center. You put in the bulletin board, and I was just sharing with everybody that, oh my gosh, we have a superstar here. We have the poster girl, not the girl on the poster, but the girl who gonna put up posters. So I'm just so excited about this turn of events yesterday that Krishna inspired me to give you a couple dozen posters, and then you put them in places that um, I would have never expected them to say yes or to allow you to do it. But as Lila Avati explained to me, wherever she went, the clerks at Office Max, or the girls at the Stone Massage Place, or at Best Buy, um, they've all been to the Color Fest. They all love the Color Fest, and they want to do their part to promote it and help let people others know and have them experience it. So they're all saying yes. Uh, uh, and bless her heart, Lilavati, how can you say no to someone as kind and gentle and as enthusiastic as she is? So whenever you finish those posters, I'll bring some more up to Salt Lake City. You got it going on. You got it going on. I'm so excited. I can't even imagine what the crowd's going to be this year with Lila plying her talents in the marketing area. Okay, Britta, go ahead and contact me separately. I don't know. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, I don't know how to answer your question where people believe in God. They're critical of any beliefs not their own. If it's not Jesus or their version of Jesus, it's got to be satanic. And you want me to tell you how to deal with them. I'm not sure I can. But go ahead and message me privately. Uh, Usually my response is just to walk away from people like that. Brent Ballaba Chandra says, whatever you do, do it headlong. Do bhakti with absorption and you won't go wrong. Do unmotivated and uninterrupted service with full-throated song. Love it. Love it. Brenda wishes me never dim your light. Thank you. I think it's safe. I think I'm more enthusiastic every year. I don't think my enthusiasm has waned. Uh, I have a brain, you know, like it does, like you said, I don't have an off switch, and that's great. I'm glad I don't have an off switch. I mean, I could do better, but I see a lot of others who are not doing as good. So here's Atma Tattva from South Africa, I believe. By the way, Atma Tattva, I was kind of flirting with the idea of going to South Africa for your Rath Yatra. Uh, Stava Mali, and a couple of devotees invited me to come to help out with emceeing and some rap songs on stage in Durban in April. But I haven't decided because it's April is when I start getting a lot of color orders, and nobody really manages the color wholesale business except for me. I don't have an employee right now. I just kind of take up all the orders, send the quotes, do the invoices, do the packing, do the shipping myself. So I'm looking for someone that might be able to bear that responsibility when I'm gone. And another thing is it's like 30 hours travel to South Africa and the ticket costs $2,000. They said they would give me a donation by way of reimbursing, but anyway, I might see you in April, I might not. But anyway, let's read what Atma Tattva has to do here. Could the desire to do something in service of the desire to acquire something to serve to be viewed as simply asking for something from Krishna? It seems that all we have is the ability to desire as entities naturally inclined to serve as Rasik beings. So is it wrong to ask Krishna for something in that mood, or would it be better to pray for guidance and mercy from the Vaishnavas and Charyas? Very good question. Krishna is so merciful. He carries what we lack. He preserves what we have. So all is not lost, but and in fact, we're talking about the story of Gajendra, who was doing exactly what we warn against. He was forgetful of Krishna, but in one sense, he was cold. He wasn't demeaning devotional service. He wasn't minimizing devotional service. He just literally forgotten it. So he went from hot as Indra to cold, and that's what we said. God says, "I'll take you hot, I'll take you cold, but I won't take you lukewarm." Lukewarm is almost like committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting. It's incorrigible. If you chant, think the chanting will free you from sinful activity, and then you go out and sin, and then you chant, and you get into that sort of mindset that you do anything you want, and then you can remove it by chanting. Then it's there's nothing that anybody, even the great saints, can do for you. But as long as you stay fresh and open, then Krishna can take you from forgetfulness of Krishna, from cold to hot. Uh, to do lukewarm is really, a, it's really a different thing altogether. I think what a good example in this connection is Prabhupada said that if someone's pretending to be asleep, it's almost impossible to wake them up. But if someone's actually asleep, it's better to wake them up. And that's why sometimes I'd rather reach out to the new people than some of the people who have been around for a while that have become jaded. Devotional service is not cheap. It's not just like joining a religion or being a card carrying member. It's not like churchianity. It actually requires, as we've been emphasizing quite a bit, intention. Krishna looks at the inner self, the heart, not just how many times you've been to the temple, how much of a donation you've given, how many slokas, but in fact, what is your intention? Is it in your intention to, in fact, value and cherish and nourish the seed of bhakti, to remove anything that threatens the growth and the healthy um, evolution of the bhakti yoga seed? It's not enough just to plant and to water. You also have to be diligent to not allow weeds to come in. Because when you're watering, I've found this with gardening, when you're putting a lot of water on the wanted plant, that's also going to cause unwanted plants to come up. So it's not enough just to plant the seed in good soil and water it. You also have to be diligent, because in the very watering process, there will come up weeds. And weeds usually get along with very little water. So when you put a lot of water on your the one you want as crop, the weeds tend to grow faster than the wanted plant. And so you have to be even more diligent to pull up the weeds. Otherwise, they're going to steal the water and the plant's not going to prosper. So, like, yeah, I think your question is a very good question. Um, uh, Krishna can work with you if you're cold, like Gajendra or like Dhruva Maharaj. He can work with you if you're hot, of course, like Prahlad Maharaj and others. But if you're lukewarm, if you kind of have the attitude, been there, done that, don't tell me about it, then, you know, what, what can you do? Maybe next life. All right. Some more poetry from Ballaba Chandra, like rays of sun through the gaps in a dark cavern space. Light from the Bhagavatam comes to the world through Krishna's grace. Acting in Naiskarmya, together we can see through the dark, realize that our nature is eternal spiritual spark. Nice. Like rays of sun through the gaps in a dark cavern space, light from the Bhagavatam comes to the world through Krishna's grace. Acting in Naiskarmya, together we can see through the dark, realize our nature is eternal spiritual spark. Love it. Shali, Hare Krishna. So nice to dance with you and the family last Sunday when Yugal Avatar was here. Britta says, happy to be back on a later ship so I can hear your transcendental words live. And Ram Kishore and Kelly, you guys should meet each other. You guys kind of look like each other and you're kind of the same age, maybe. Kelly's a little older, but I kind of get the same vibe from you guys. I love your boldness. I love the way you are very courageous in expressing yourself. Um, no holds barred. Tell it like it is. Let the chips fall where they may. I admire both of you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. I may not post in the same way you do, but I definitely monitor your posts for some spice, some spice. So thank you for you. Okay, we've been going on here for quite some time. This is Wisdom Wednesday. Maybe we've drawn it out a little longer than normal because we're loath to uh, depart from your association. This is the last of our series of three, or actually two, because I went to Springville Junior High earlier this year. We'll be back next Monday with Motivational Monday, and some of you I'll see on the weekend as well. Keep chatting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare.